cleaner here, the Windex here, the alcohol, and then the hand cleaner. Let's see which one does a better job. Welcome back to part 3, Motorola VT73 Restore. Let's get started. All right, I cleaned the controls. We'll do some cleaning on the chassis, clean the tubes, get it looking better. And then we'll tackle this CRT, get that old gasket material removed. Let's talk about this spring that's around the high voltage rectifier tube. This provides feedback to the grid circuit of the high voltage oscillator tube. And because I changed the rectifier, I did have to reposition this spring. Service literature says around 3/4 of an inch from the base of the tube to the bottom of the spring. That's about where we're at. I adjusted it with a high voltage probe, and right where I have it seems to be the maximum high voltage, so we're going to leave it right there. And I did put a piece of tape around the tube like the old tube had. Cover back on, and there are 10 of these screws that go around the bottom edge of the cover. A lot of the time, in fact most of the time, when you get one of these and you're trying to restore these screws, some of them will be missing, might have one on each side or whatever. These all need to be in there. Motorola thought that they were necessary for proper shielding, so I'm sure they had a good reason for that, and you want to make sure you always put these back in. That's a lot of gasket material, at the most I've ever seen on a 7JP4. And the way I'm getting it off, just dipping it in water, let it set, and that'll soften that stuff up, and you can see the water's already starting to turn color. Just give it a little while and it should come off. Well, we're getting there. We got a lot of it off. Back in the water. I think that was one of the worst ones I've ever tried to clean off. There's so much of that gasket material on the face of the tube where it ran down. But it looks good. So let's hook it up to the chassis and see what the picture looks like. Not too bad. That's with all the overhead lights on. Horizontal tube. This one. And we still seem to be working just as well. And there's a second tube. Looks like it's going to work okay. A little bit of difference, not much. Still warming up. There we go. Maybe a little difference in those two tubes, but this one would still work. And that one. This is the third one. This is an RCA. This is one I had, one of my stash of 12SN7s. Let's see what it does. Well, that 12SN7 is definitely bad. It's been a couple of minutes and no deflection. Put the original back in. warming up. So in summary, those two tubes are still okay, even though they checked a little weak when we initially tested them. And this one's bad. That should wrap up the electrical restoration. Chassis after doing some cleaning on it. So we're working well. Now let's see what we can do with the cabinet. Sure wish the rest of this cabinet looked as good as this front. That side seems to be a little worse than the other. This top, it's pretty rough, but it is what it is, so we'll do our best. Well, I have 4 different products here we're going to try. This gallon jug, that's just a degreaser and cleaner, and I have it in this spray bottle. Windex, alcohol, I don't know what that would do, but we're going to try. And then hand cleaner. So let me pick out a spot here and we'll do the cleaner here, the Windex here, the alcohol, and then the hand cleaner. And see which one does a better job. All right, to do a fair test, I used a toothbrush and I scrubbed for 30 seconds on each place. And I think you can see that the cleaner that was in the gallon jug, multi-purpose cleaner, that did a really good job. And it was probably 15 seconds when it started to look that bright. The Windex, okay, but not as good. Alcohol, not good at all. And that was a pretty good scrubbing for 30 seconds. And then the hand cleaner, I think the hand cleaner would work, but it would just take longer than this. So I'm going to go with the multi-purpose cleaner. Just spraying this on, just letting it set for a few seconds. It doesn't take very long. You see, looking really good. And I'll probably go back with another cleaning on top of this once this dries. I don't want to get it too wet. See the difference there. If you use a toothbrush, it really does a nice job. To get around the edges of this front, to get it clean and to clean these a little better, remove them. This bottom piece just has brackets that go through those slots like that. And you got a screw on each end, holds it in. And this top piece has 3 screws on the inside of the cabinet that screw into it. One on each end and one in the middle. So now we can clean those a little better. Been removing these decorative pieces that go in these vents on the sides and fit really tight. So let me show you how I'm safely removing these without damaging the leatherette cover. Going on the inside of the cabinet, just using my 1/4-inch nut driver. Just pushing down to release it. Should be enough to get a hold of the outside. Once I have it pushed out enough to get in behind the edge of it, take a screwdriver and then the second screwdriver to hold that in. And we just Slowly prise it out. Well, I'm going to stop right there. Is it perfect? No, but looks a lot better than when I started. So now we'll put the front back in and we'll put those decorative pieces over the vent holes. Clean them up a little bit, get them put back in. Okay, we're finished with that. It's ready for the chassis. The decorative pieces for the side vents, I've decided to paint those. Tried to clean them up with some steel wool, but they're just, some of them discolored, so we're going to put just a little bit of spray paint on them. I have some champagne bronze I'll probably use. That's what I've used on the Predictas. It matches pretty close to that. There's the 4 screws that go on the back. 4 screws go here, and we've got to put some new feet on that. So we can go ahead and get that taken care of. We'll just use these new feet. May not need that washer. We'll see how that works out. New rubber feet installed. Just a light coat of the champagne bronze spray paint. Yeah, those look better. And they match the gold front pretty well. We need to mount the CRT back in the cabinet. And see that stripe I painted on that shield? That tells me that that goes up when I put it in the cabinet. That'll get us close enough to where we may have to move it a little bit each way, but it's a good starting point. Okay, we have the tube just in an approximate position where it needs to be. Now we'll put the clamp around here to hold it. The tube is pretty tight, so we're going to leave it like that until we get the chassis put back in and see if we need to make any adjustments. Where that gasket is missing, this is what I'm going to try to use. I need to cut this the exact length to make a circle to go around that tube there like that and go all the way around. Well, I'm going to have to rethink this. I'm going to pull the tube back out. I'm going to try to put that gasket material in there first. Otherwise, there's a gap right here and it slides back in it like that, and we don't want that. So let's pull this tube back out. Yeah, that worked a lot better. Put the gasket down in there first, and then just push the tube down against the gasket and then tighten it there with the bracket on the back. It's pretty much holding it where it needs to be. And there's a back view. Noticing this label says Do not place back of set closer than 1 inch to wall. Do not connect chassis to water pipe, radiator, or other ground. And there's all the patent numbers. Motorola, Augusta Boulevard, Chicago, 51, Illinois. And this label on the other side. Got all the tube layout. Warning, picture tube to be removed only by an authorized service representative. And there's a ground wire that goes to the speaker. The chassis bottom cover. Cleaned it off as best I could. Okay, let's put this chassis back in. Got it on the metal tray. We got to plug the speaker back up before we slide it in. All right. Looks pretty good in the front, so I'm going to put a couple of the screws here in the back with a quarter inch head. Turn it around so we can get to the front ones. Felt like that one went right in where it's supposed to. And so did that one. All right, let's tighten up the back. A little gold dot that marks the position of the tuner. And we're on channel 6, so right there. Let's set it back over here on the bench and plug it up and make sure we're working okay. Here's the back. I was able to dig up enough screws to put back in it. This is where that gasket had leaked out around the CRT, and it took the paint off there when I scraped the gasket, but well, I don't worry about that. That completes the restore on the 1949 Motorola VT73. Thanks for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the video. And if you did, how about giving us a like and subscribe to our channel? Thanks.